Commander Lisa Blackwood stared at the blinking light on her console aboard the Earth ship Stargazer. The signal kept pulsing in an unusual pattern, nothing like the normal space noise they typically encountered. She brushed her brown hair from her face and leaned closer to the screen, studying the repeating sequence. "Navigation, what's our current position?" she asked, keeping her eyes fixed on the display. "We're at the edge of the Centauri system, Commander," Officer Ben Clark responded, "about half a light year from the nearest star." Lisa tapped her fingers on the armrest of her command chair. This was the third unusual signal they'd picked up this week, but this one was different. It had a structure to it, a clear pattern that suggested intelligence. "Communications, run a full analysis on that signal," she ordered. "I want to know everything about it." The bridge crew worked quietly, the soft hum of equipment filling the air. After several minutes, Communications Officer Mary White spoke up. "Commander, you need to see this. The signal, it's not random. It's a message." Lisa walked over to Mary's station, looking over her shoulder at the decoded data. The message was simple but clear. "We see you. We know you. We come." A chill ran down Lisa's spine. After years of searching for alien life, humanity had finally made contact. But something about the message felt wrong, almost threatening. "Send this to Earth Command immediately," Lisa ordered. "Priority 1 transmission." Before Mary could send the message, the ship's sensors lit up like a Christmas tree. A massive object had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, just a few thousand kilometers away. The object was smooth and silvery, shaped like a perfect sphere. And it was bigger than any ship humanity had ever built. "All stations, battle positions," Lisa commanded, keeping her voice steady despite the fear building in her chest. "Raise shields, but do not arm weapons. We don't want to appear hostile." The sphere hung motionless in space, its surface reflecting the distant starlight. Then, without warning, a beam of pale blue light shot out from it, scanning the Stargazer from bow to stern. "Commander," the ship's AI announced, "we're receiving a transmission. They want to establish a video link." Lisa straightened her uniform. "Accept the transmission." The main view screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a control room. The beings inside looked almost human, but their skin had a metallic sheen, and their eyes glowed with an inner light. They called themselves the Mindweavers. The alien in the center spoke perfect English, its voice carrying an artificial smoothness. "Greetings, primitive ones. We have been watching your species for some time." Lisa kept her expression neutral. "I am Commander Lisa Blackwood of the Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations." The Mindweaver's face showed something like amusement. "Peace is possible, but only through unity. Your species exists in a state of chaos. Billions of separate minds, each working independently. This is inefficient, dangerous. We offer you the gift of true consciousness." "I'm not sure I understand," Lisa replied carefully. "Your biological brains are limited. We can help you transcend these limitations. Join our collective consciousness. Become part of something greater." As the Mindweaver spoke, Lisa felt a strange pressure in her head, like someone was trying to push thoughts into her mind. Several crew members grabbed their heads, wincing in pain. "Stop whatever you're doing to my crew," Lisa demanded. The Mindweaver tilted its head. "We are merely showing you a fraction of what you could become. Your resistance is disappointing but expected from such primitive beings. You have 1 Earth month to prepare your species for neural restructuring. We will return, and you will join us, willingly or not." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, the sphere disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving only a lingering sense of dread. "Is everyone all right?" Lisa asked, looking around at her crew. They nodded, still shaking off the effects of the alien mental probe. "Send everything we have to Earth Command," she ordered. "Every scan, every recording. The Earth needs to prepare." Over the next few weeks, Lisa's report sparked intense debate among Earth's leaders. Some wanted to attempt peaceful negotiations with the Mindweavers. Others insisted on preparing for war. The truth was, humanity had no defense against a species that could attack their minds directly. 3 weeks after the encounter, Earth's worst fears were confirmed. Mindweaver ships appeared in orbit around every major human colony. Their message was broadcast simultaneously across all frequencies. Your time of preparation is over. Your resistance has been noted. We will now proceed with forced integration. This is not an invasion. It is an evolution. Those who accept our gift willingly will be treated well. Those who resist will be compelled. The age of biological consciousness is ending. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Stargazer, watching as the first shots of the war were fired. Human ships launched desperate attacks against the Mindweaver vessels, their weapons barely scratching the alien shields. The Mindweavers responded not with traditional weapons, but with waves of psychic energy that left entire crews catatonic. "We need to fall back," Lisa ordered as another Earth ship went dark. "We can't fight them head-on. Not like this." As the Stargazer retreated with the remnants of Earth's fleet, Lisa knew humanity was facing its greatest challenge. They weren't just fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for the right to keep their own thoughts, their own consciousness. The war that would come to be known as the Human Space War Light had begun, and unless humanity could find a way to defend their minds, it might be over before it really started. That night, as Lisa sat in her quarters writing her report, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Mindweavers had shown them only a fraction of their true power. The real battle hadn't even begun yet, but humans had one advantage the Mindweavers might not understand: the strength that came from being individuals, from thinking differently, from feeling deeply. "We'll find a way," she whispered to herself. "We always do." The next morning, Lisa received word that Earth scientists were already working on countermeasures against psychic attacks. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As she walked onto the bridge for her shift, she saw determination in the eyes of her crew. They had chosen this life knowing the risks, knowing that humanity's first contact with alien life might not be peaceful. Now they would face whatever came next together, as individuals united by choice rather than forced collective consciousness. The war had begun, and the fate of human consciousness hung in the balance. Dr. Peter Grant hadn't slept in 3 days. His lab at the Underground Defense Research Facility was littered with empty coffee cups and scattered notes. The neural interface helmet on his workbench represented humanity's best hope against the Mindweaver's psychic attacks. "Another test, another failure," he muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. But something in the latest results caught his attention. The test subjects who showed the strongest resistance to mental invasion weren't the ones with the highest IQs or the best mental training. They were the ones who felt emotions most intensely. A knock at his lab door interrupted his thoughts. Lieutenant Kate Morrison stood in the doorway, her combat armor bearing fresh scorch marks from her latest mission. "How's it going, Doc?" she asked, walking over to examine the helmet. "Please tell me you have good news. We lost 2 more ships yesterday." Peter picked up the helmet, turning it over in his hands. "I think I might have something, but I need your help to test it." Kate raised an eyebrow. "The last 3 prototypes gave me migraines for a week." "This one's different," Peter insisted. "I've been looking at it all wrong. We don't need to block the Mindweaver's signals completely. We need to amplify what makes us human." He explained his discovery about emotional responses while attaching sensors to Kate's temples. The lieutenant sat patiently, though her skepticism was clear on her face. "Ready?" Peter asked, powering up the device. Kate nodded. "Hit me with your best shot, Doc." Peter activated the neural simulator, which recreated a weak version of the Mindweaver's psychic attack. Previous tests had left subjects disoriented and confused. But this time, something different happened. Kate's eyes widened. "I can feel them trying to get in, but it's like they're hitting a wall. Not a solid wall, more like trying to grab smoke." Peter checked the readings, his excitement growing. Your emotional state is creating a kind of natural shield. The more you feel, the stronger it gets. So our emotions are actually our defense? Kate asked, removing the sensors. Not just a defense, Peter replied, already making modifications to the design. If we can amplify this effect, we might be able to turn it into a weapon. Word of the breakthrough spread quickly through the underground facility. Within days, scientists around the world were replicating and improving upon Peter's design. The first batch of mural defense helmets was rushed into production. 3 weeks later, Kate led the first combat test of the new technology. Her squad of special operations soldiers approached a small Mindweaver scout ship that had landed in the Australian outback. "Remember your training," Kate said over the tactical channel. "Don't try to block them out. Let yourself feel everything. Fear, anger, hope, everything. The helmets will do the rest." The Mindweavers emerged from their ship, their metallic skin gleaming in the harsh sun. The alien beings immediately launched a psychic assault, expecting the humans to collapse like all the others before them. Instead, Kate's squad stood firm. The neural helmets glowed with soft blue light, transforming the soldiers' emotional energy into a protective shield. The Mindweavers' attack scattered harmlessly around them. "Now," Kate ordered. Her soldiers focused their thoughts, channeling their emotions through the helmet's amplification circuits. The combined wave of human consciousness struck the Mindweavers like a physical blow. The aliens staggered, their usual coordination disrupted. For the first time since the war began, humanity had a real victory. The Mindweaver scout ship was captured intact, along with its crew. The research team, led by young scientist Alan Cooper, immediately began studying the alien technology. Alan made another crucial discovery while examining the captured ship. "The Mindweaver ships aren't just vessels," he explained to the command staff. "They're extensions of their consciousness. If we can disrupt their connection to their technology." The implications were huge. Humanity now had 2 advantages: their emotional shields and a potential way to cut the Mindweavers off from their own ships. The Battle of Europa proved to be the turning point. A fleet of Earth ships, all equipped with the new neural defense systems, faced off against a Mindweaver battle group near Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Kate's squad led the boarding party. As they cut their way into the lead Mindweaver ship, the aliens launched wave after wave of psychic attacks. But the humans' emotional shields held firm. The Mindweavers, unable to comprehend how their greatest weapon could fail, fell back in disarray. Alan's modified disruptor worked perfectly. The Mindweaver ships, cut off from their crew's collective consciousness, became little more than floating metal shells. The battle was over in less than an hour. Back on Earth, Peter watched the victory celebration from his lab. He was already working on improvements to the neural defense system, but something bothered him. The Mindweavers had retreated too easily. Their technology was still far advanced beyond humanity's. What were they planning? Kate visited him later that night, still wearing her neural helmet. "You should be out celebrating with the others," she said. Peter shook his head. "This isn't over. The Mindweavers underestimated us, but they won't make that mistake again. We need to be ready." "Then we'll be ready," Kate replied firmly. "Today proved something important. They might have their collective consciousness, but our individual emotions, our human spirits, that's more powerful than they could have imagined." The neural defense network expanded rapidly after the Battle of Europa. Every human ship, every colony, every major city was equipped with emotion-amplifying shields. Humanity had found its strength not in trying to match the Mindweavers' cold logic, but in embracing what made them different. Peter kept working, improving the technology. Each success brought humanity closer to securing their future, but the war was far from over. The Mindweavers would return, and next time they would be prepared for humanity's emotional warfare. As he looked at the latest test results, Peter couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very thing the Mindweavers had dismissed as primitive, Human emotion had become their greatest weakness. Perhaps there was a lesson there about the true nature of consciousness and evolution. The Neural Defense Initiative had given humanity hope. Now they just had to survive what came next. Admiral John Hayes stood at the command center window of Luna Base, watching Earth glow blue and white against the black of space. The Mindweavers had been quiet for weeks, but he knew better than to think they'd given up. "Admiral," his aide called out, "the latest reports from the outer colonies are here." John reviewed the data with a grim expression. The Mindweavers had changed their strategy. Instead of direct attacks, they were now targeting civilian populations with long-range consciousness absorption rays. Entire settlements were falling silent. "Get me Dr. Susan Martinez," he ordered. "We need those bunkers operational yesterday." Dr. Martinez had been working around the clock to create underground shelters equipped with advanced psychic shielding. Her team had discovered that certain mineral combinations could naturally disrupt the Mindweavers' mental attacks. "The first network of bunkers is ready," Susan reported via hologram. "We can protect about 30% of Earth's population right now. Give me 2 more weeks, and we'll have enough for everyone." "We might not have 2 weeks," John replied. "Our deep space sensors show massive Mindweaver fleets gathering at the edge of the solar system." Before Susan could respond, an alert flashed across the command screens. A group of humans had made contact, claiming they had developed natural telepathic abilities in response to the Mindweaver attacks. Michelle Patterson, their leader, arrived at Luna Base the next day. She was a small woman with intense eyes and an air of quiet confidence. "It started after their first attack," she explained to John and Susan. "Some of us began to sense each other's thoughts. At first, we thought we were going crazy. Then we realized we were evolving." John leaned forward. "Can you sense the Mindweavers?" Michelle nodded. "Better than that. We can fight them on their own terms, but we need your help to organize and train more like us." The discovery of human telepaths changed everything. While Dr. Martinez continued building protected bunkers, Michelle worked with military leaders to create a new kind of defense force. The first real test came during the Battle of New Mars Colony. The Mindweavers launched a massive assault, expecting to absorb the consciousness of 10,000 colonists. Instead, they met Michelle's team of trained telepaths. "Push them back," Michelle commanded through the mental link she shared with her squad. The human telepaths formed a united front, their minds working together while staying distinctly individual, something the Mindweavers hadn't thought possible. The aliens' attack faltered. Their collective consciousness, usually so overwhelming, couldn't break through the uniquely human combination of individual thought and shared purpose. While the telepaths held the mental line, Earth's conventional forces moved in. The neural defense systems had been upgraded, allowing regular troops to not just defend against psychic attacks, but to launch their own emotional countermeasures. The battle lasted 3 days. By the end, humanity had captured its first major Mindweaver vessel intact. The ship was a massive sphere of living metal, its systems integrated with the collective consciousness of its crew. Susan led the research team that studied the captured vessel. "It's incredible," she reported to John. "The ship isn't just controlled by their minds, it's grown by them. Each part is connected to their collective consciousness." "Can we use any of this?" John asked, running his hand along the smooth alien metal. "Better than that," Susan replied with a smile. "We've found their weakness. The Mindweavers aren't just connected to each other. They're dependent on that connection. If we can disrupt it completely." Michelle and her telepaths proved invaluable in understanding the captured technology. They could sense the lingering traces of Mindweaver consciousness in the ship's systems, learning how the aliens thought and operated. But the Mindweavers weren't idle. Their next attack targeted Earth's communication networks, trying to isolate human forces from each other. They hadn't counted on Michelle's telepaths being able to maintain contact even when normal communications failed. "They're adapting to our defenses," Michelle warned during an emergency meeting. "Each attack is different, probing for new weaknesses. They're learning." John nodded grimly. Then we'll have to learn faster. How many new telepaths have emerged? Hundreds more every week, Michelle replied. It's like the human mind is naturally evolving to meet this threat. But we need time to train them. Time was the one thing they might not have. The Mindweaver fleets were growing larger, gathering for what looked like a massive assault on Earth itself. Susan's bunker network was nearly complete, able to shelter most of Earth's population. The neural defense systems had been installed in every major city. Michelle's telepaths were stationed strategically around the globe. But would it be enough? The answer came sooner than expected. A lone Mindweaver ship appeared in orbit, broadcasting a message that everyone on Earth could hear in their minds. Your resistance exceeds expectations. You have shown potential, but you cannot win. You cannot stop evolution. We are coming to complete what must be done. John stood in the command center, watching the ship vanish as quickly as it had appeared. Send word to all forces, he ordered. Whatever they're planning, we face it together. Michelle's voice echoed in his mind, along with hundreds of other telepaths. We are ready. Susan's bunkers hummed with power, their shields ready to protect humanity's children and future. The captured Mindweaver ship had yielded more secrets, more weapons for the coming battle. Humanity had found its strength not in matching the Mindweaver's unity, but in combining individual thought with collective action. Each person remained unique while working together, a concept that seemed to confuse and disturb the alien consciousness. As the massive Mindweaver fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, John thought about how far they'd come. From merely helpless victims to warriors capable of fighting back. From scattered individuals to a united species that still celebrated its differences. The real war was about to begin. But this time, humanity was ready. Michelle's telepaths stretched their minds out toward the approaching fleet, gathering intelligence. Susan's team prepared to implement their new discoveries about Mindweaver technology, and John's forces stood ready to defend Earth with everything they had learned. The resistance had grown from a desperate gamble into humanity's best hope for survival. Now they would see if it was enough. Captain Richard Wells stared at the holographic display, showing the Mindweaver fleet's movements. Something about their formation bothered him. The alien ships moved too perfectly, too coordinated, like cells in a single organism. There's a pattern here, he muttered, drawing lines between the ships. They're not just connected. They're drawing power from somewhere. His discovery led to an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. The holographic images of Admiral Hayes, Dr. Martins, and Michelle Patterson flickered as Richard explained his theory. Look here, he pointed to the center of the Mindweaver formation. All their movements radiate from this point. I think we found their central neural hub, the heart of their collective consciousness. Michelle closed her eyes, extending her telepathic senses. He's right. I can feel it. A massive concentration of mental energy. It's like a sun made of thoughts. Then that's our target, Admiral Hayes declared. We need a plan to strike at their core. Dr. Laura Bennett, a quiet scientist who had been studying Mindweaver psychology, spoke up. I might have something that could help. I've developed a virus. Not a biological one, but a mental one. It's designed to create chaos in their shared consciousness. The plan they created was called Operation Mindbreak. It would be humanity's biggest gamble yet. While the main fleet engaged the Mindweavers near Alpha Centauri, a small strike team would attempt to deliver Dr. Bennett's virus to the neural hub. Richard volunteered to lead the strike team. His ship, loaded with the latest neural defense systems and cloaking technology, would carry them into the heart of enemy territory. Remember, Laura told him as she handed over the virus containment unit, this isn't just code. It's concentrated chaos. Human thoughts and emotions scrambled into a form their collective consciousness can't handle. The battle began 3 days later. Earth's fleet, now equipped with captured Mindweaver technology, engaged the alien armada near Alpha Centauri. The space around the star lit up with weapons fire and psychic energy. Michelle's telepaths launched coordinated mental attacks, creating gaps in the Mindweaver's defenses. Regular human soldiers, their neural helmets glowing, fought with a combination of traditional weapons and emotional warfare. Meanwhile, Richard's ship slipped through the chaos, heading for the neural hub. His small crew included Laura and two of Michelle's best telepaths. They had one shot at this. If they failed, humanity might never get another chance. Contact in 3 minutes, Richard announced as they approached the massive structure at the center of the Mindweaver fleet. The neural hub was beautiful in a strange way, a crystalline sphere that pulsed with living light. Laura worked quickly to prepare the virus. Once we release this, we'll have maybe 5 minutes to get clear before it takes full effect. Any longer and we risk being caught in the mental backlash. The Mindweavers finally detected them as they made their approach. Defensive weapons fired, and waves of psychic energy battered their shields. The telepaths on board strained to maintain their protection. Now, Richard ordered as they came within range. Laura activated the virus delivery system, shooting a concentrated beam of corrupted consciousness directly into the heart of the neural hub. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal sphere began to pulse erratically. Waves of confusion spread through the Mindweaver fleet as their perfect coordination began to break down. "Get us out of here," Laura shouted. Richard didn't need to be told twice. He pushed the engines to maximum, racing away from the deteriorating hub. Behind them, chaos erupted. The virus spread through the Mindweaver's collective consciousness like wildfire. Ships began moving randomly, crashing into each other. Some simply went dark, their crews overwhelmed by the sudden flood of chaotic human thoughts and emotions. The main battle turned instantly. Without their perfect coordination, the Mindweavers couldn't maintain their complex battle formations. Earth's forces pressed the advantage, driving deep into their lines. But the victory came at a cost. The mental backlash from the collapsing neural hub hit everyone with telepathic abilities. Michelle's people screamed in pain as they felt thousands of alien minds crying out in confusion and fear. Status report. Admiral Hayes demanded as Richard's ship rejoined the main fleet. "The virus worked better than we expected," Laura replied, still shaking from the experience. "Their entire network is compromised. They can't maintain their collective consciousness." The Mindweaver fleet retreated in disarray, leaving behind damaged ships and confused crews. For the first time since the war began, humanity had dealt them a truly significant defeat. But Richard noticed something concerning in the aftermath. Some of them adapted, he reported. A small group of ships managed to isolate themselves from the infected network. "They're learning from this." Laura nodded grimly. "The virus won't work again. They'll find ways to protect themselves. But we've proved they're not invincible." The battle near Alpha Centauri became known as the turning point. The Mindweaver's aura of invincibility was shattered. Their greatest strength, their shared consciousness, had been turned into a weakness. In the days that followed, humanity began to understand the true cost of their victory. The captured Mindweaver crews showed signs of severe mental trauma. Some had gone completely catatonic, unable to function without their connection to the collective. "We need to find a better way," Michelle said during the debriefing. "What we did to them, it was necessary, but it was also terrible. There has to be a middle ground between their forced unity and total mental isolation." Richard spent long hours studying the battle recordings, preparing for what he knew would come next. The Mindweavers would return, possibly with new defenses against human telepathy and emotional warfare. But humanity had learned important lessons too. They had discovered the strength in their unique combination of individual thought and cooperative action. Each victory brought new understanding of both themselves and their enemies. As Earth's forces regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the war, Richard couldn't help but wonder, what would the Mindweavers learn from this defeat, and how would it change the battles to come? The turning point had been reached, but the war was far from over. Both sides would need to adapt, to evolve. The question was, who would emerge stronger from these changes? Commander Daniel Hayes stood at the bridge of the Earth flagship Starcolor, watching the Mindweaver forces retreat deeper into their home system. After years of war, the final battle was approaching. "Status report on Dr. Watson's project," he requested, keeping his eyes on the tactical display. His second-in-command brought up the latest data. Dr. Amy Watson had made an unprecedented breakthrough in consciousness protection technology. Her new system didn't just shield human minds, it allowed for safe, controlled sharing of thoughts while maintaining individual identity. The first tests were successful, the report stated. "We can now communicate with the Mindweavers without risking mental absorption." Amy herself arrived on the bridge, carrying her latest prototype. "Commander, I need to show you something," she said, her eyes bright with discovery. The Mindweavers, they weren't always like this. Their historical records from the captured ships show they used to be more like us. She explained how the Mindweavers had gradually lost their individuality, not through choice but through fear. Their technology had advanced so quickly that they became afraid of their own potential for conflict. The collective consciousness was meant to be temporary, a way to ensure peace. They forgot how to be individuals, Amy said. And now they can't remember how to go back. Daniel considered this information as he watched the enemy fleet. The Mindweavers had gathered their remaining forces around their homeworld, a beautiful blue-green planet that looked surprisingly like Earth. "Send the message," he ordered. Using Amy's new technology, they'd broadcast thoughts of peace mixed with images of healthy individual consciousness. The response came quickly. The Mindweaver ships began moving, but not in attack formation. A single vessel approached, requesting permission to dock. The alien that emerged was different from the others they had encountered. Its metallic skin seemed softer, more natural, and its eyes held something new: curiosity. "We have been watching," it said, its voice carrying both individual and collective tones. "Your species has shown us something we have forgotten. The strength of unity comes not from erasing differences, but from choosing to work together while remaining unique." Daniel felt Michelle Patterson's telepathic confirmation. The alien was speaking truth. The Mindweavers were changing, remembering their own lost individuality. But not all of them wanted change. A faction of the Mindweaver fleet suddenly broke formation, attacking both human and peaceful Mindweaver ships. The final battle had begun. This time, the fighting was different. Human forces fought alongside Mindweavers who had chosen to reclaim their individuality. Amy's technology allowed them to coordinate perfectly while maintaining their separate identities. "Target their command ships," Daniel ordered. "But remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to save them from themselves." The battle raged across the star system. Human telepaths worked with reformed Mindweavers, creating shields around damaged ships from both sides. Amy's technology spread through the enemy fleet like a healing wave, offering a choice rather than forcing a change. One by one, the attacking Mindweaver ships stood down. Their crews, given the chance to remember their individual selves while maintaining positive mental connections, chose a middle path between total separation and complete absorption. The war ended not with a decisive victory, but with a transformation. The Mindweavers, under the influence of Amy's technology and humanity's example, began to rediscover their lost individuality. "We remember now," the Mindweaver leader told Daniel during the peace negotiations. "We remember what it was to be both one and many. Your species helped us find our way back." The peace treaty that followed was unique in human history. It wasn't just a document. It was a shared mental framework that protected both species while allowing for deep cooperation. Amy's work continued, refining the technology that allowed for safe mental connection. Humanity began to explore their own potential for shared consciousness, but always with the lesson of the Mindweavers in mind. True unity comes from choice, not force. The former Mindweaver colonies transformed into places where both species could live and work together. The metallic cities began to show more variety, reflecting the returning individuality of their builders. Michelle's telepaths became teachers, helping both humans and Mindweavers understand the balance between mental connection and personal identity. The fear that had driven the Mindweavers to enforce collective consciousness was replaced by the joy of chosen cooperation. Daniel watched from the Star Color as the first joint human Mindweaver settlement was established. The buildings were a beautiful blend of styles, some purely human, some purely Mindweaver, and some a harmonious mixture of both. "We learned as much from them as they did from us," Amy said, standing beside him. "We learned that consciousness isn't just individual or collective. It's a spectrum. The trick is finding the right balance." The true revelation of the war wasn't about victory or defeat. It was about evolution. Not the forced evolution the Mindweavers had originally planned, but the natural evolution that comes from different species learning from each other. As the years passed, the human space war light became known not as a conflict, but as a turning point in the development of consciousness itself. Both humans and Mindweavers had discovered that the greatest strength comes not from enforcing uniformity or protecting isolation, but from celebrating diversity while choosing connection. The stars beckoned, and now two species moved forward together, each individual contributing their unique perspective to a greater whole, not through force, but through choice. The Council of Mind had become not a tool of control, but a forum where all forms of consciousness could meet, learn, and grow together. And somewhere in deep space, other species watched and wondered about the strange partnership between individual humans and collective Mindweavers, not knowing that they too would soon be invited to join in the grand experiment of chosen unity amidst cherished diversity. The war was over, but the real adventure was just beginning.